and contacts and turning them into engaged followers, customers, and maybe potential clients.
Welcome to the Howie and Beastmode podcast, where we discuss all things business, including growth, strategy, and execution, as well as personal and professional development. Let's join Howie and Beastmode in conversation.
I was actually, when I was in college, I actually got diagnosed with a autoimmune disease. And so I had to take off some time to heal, and school way too fast after that time period. It was the fall of 2008. So my degree is in political science, and I have a master's in history. I got my master's in history about January of 2020. And so it was right before the pandemic started. And I, it was just like God, like, hey, I'm gonna let you finish before like the world collapses in front of our eyes. And so I work for a transportation company, and I've worked from home the last 2.5 years. And it's kind of crazy that when I was joined the company I'm with right now, this week will actually be 4 years. And I had no previous experience in the field that I was working at prior. I had been jumping around. I was a substitute teacher. I did a lot of various different things. And a 2-week sick leave fill-in job turned into a full-time job about 8 months later. So it was totally God. It kind of fell in my lap. I wasn't anticipating, going into that field because it's trucking. And, I'm on the backside. I work in the billing department, and I get to talk to people a lot. And I interact with people across the country. So I get dialed into what's going on across the country, really. And, during the pandemic, I actually got a certificate for life coaching, like a certificate of completely. And but I finished that last May, and I'm just trying to figure out what's next because I don't really feel fulfilled, and I know that's between me and God. That feeling. But I'm looking to get into a different field, if that makes any sense.
Okay. So you work in the billing department right now, and you speak with people across the country. Gotcha. I'm curious on the degree side. So you got a poli-sci degree and a master's in history, right?
Yes.
Okay. Where'd you go to school?
I went for my undergrad. I went to UNT, and I was just trying to get that piece of paper. And I graduated in 2011. And if I could rewind the clock, I would probably do something. I would actually go for radio, television, and film, because that's like a side thing that I enjoy. And I would have loved to make that my full-time job, but fear won, and I did the safe bet, and I did political science, and I don't use it. I mean, I do, relatively speaking, because I communicate with other people all the time. So, but I don't, that's really not my passion. And to be completely honest, the political science field is toxic. So I would rather not that. Yeah. So that's, I got my degree, got the piece of paper. But that's about
And how'd the history, where'd you go to school for your master's in history?
I went to Grand Canyon University in Phoenix. I did it online. I had a flare up of my autoimmune disease that I have 4 years ago before I started now. And I wanted that degree in history because that's what I originally went to school for at UNT was the history, but due to circumstances and my health, I ended up changing because I needed the same, I had the same amount of hours left. So because I was already getting a minor in political science, so it was kind of like I just flip-flopped it. But it was a goal to get that degree more than anything else.
Got it. So getting the master's was kind of a thing that you did for fulfillment to just to achieve that more than.
Yes.
Okay. I can understand that feeling. Currently single?
Currently single.
Okay. Do you have an apartment or do you live with parents or what's going on with that?
I live with my parents. And that's a work in progress. I'm trying.
Yeah. No, I actually don't. I actually don't think that's the bad situation. Especially if you're, helpful and able to support them and do some of that. Because I think there's a lot of double spending that happens when you live on your own, and I think if you can save up, especially living in that way, then that could be really, really positive, actually. So
yeah,
especially being single. I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with that person.
Yeah, and Howie, can I say one more thing just to kind of hammer that?
Yeah.
Okay. And another reason to ask that is because if you were married and had kids, a lot of times some suggestions aren't really valid suggestions just because it's not attainable to make such a drastic change. But if you're depending upon your life situation and where you're at, so that's another reason why that's a question would ask. Just so you know.
yeah. I talking about fear, like, because I recently applied for a job and then Big Sky, Montana. Thank you, my brain. But I let fear win, and I didn't interview. And I live in that space of fear, and I want to get out of that space.
Yeah, absolutely. That's huge for sure. I mean, the Lord tells us, he actually cautioned, the Apostle Paul actually told Timothy to warn or encourage, I can't remember the wording, women not to fear. So there's something about fear that the enemy tries to take all of us down with that. But I think he does sometimes, especially target ladies. And so I think that's good that you are on guard. I think that's great. Really, really good.
Yeah, because I almost canceled on you guys. But I was like, wait, I need to do this. Oh.
Well, we're glad to talk and let the Lord will be done with that for sure. So, and I think what Beastmode said is really, really important, which is your position in life right now does provide some liberty for experimentation and for a little bit of risk taking. I think that's super good because, like right now, with two girls, I have a girl in college and a girl in high school. you know, and a whole lifestyle and a whole thing, you know, house payment, the whole bit, you know, for me to take a risk, I mean, I don't think I would lose the house because my wife works,
Uh-huh.
but I mean, I'd be pulling kids out of school. I mean, there could be some drastic consequences. Right now,
Yeah.
you're in this really nice situation, which can be really powerful in terms of some of that experimentation. So the life coaching thing, you got it last May, so that's May 2021. So that's about 14 months ago. Had you tried to? Let me ask. Actually, before I ask you what you tried to do with that, do you kind of still have a passion for that?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I had dyslexia, and I didn't know this until about 5 years ago, but my doctor told my parents that I would never graduate high school. And I didn't know this. They didn't tell me, I'll be 37 in September. So I didn't know. And I went on to test out of the writing part at Northlake College. And then I went on to UNT after that. And, if you told me when I was 18 years old, hey, Christina, you're gonna have your master's in history while having an autoimmune disease, while having dyslexia, I wouldn't have believed you. I probably would have laughed. So that is where my experience is. Like, it's not it's not in relationships or business. But giving someone hope that's been diagnosed with an autoimmune disease and or something traumatic that it took me a long time, because it's been 14 years, and I was like, I never turned away from but I definitely was like a foreign language class. I was involved with my church. I was, had that list going. Like, my plate was full. I had friends. I mean, I had a lot going on, and God was like, "Wait, you need to stop. You have way too much on your plate. You're overcompensating. You're overcompensating for the things that I want to do through you, not the other way around, where I'm just trying to, the big old the sand and then the rocks." That analogy, I love it because it's so effective. Like, I think I had all the sand, but I didn't have all the big rocks. Like, I had all the sand first, not the big rocks. So I think that's where I would go if I did do the life coaching as a job.
Gotcha. Have you? Are you interested in potentially getting going on that in parallel, having your regular job? Like, are you interested in maybe doing that on the weekend or a couple nights a week?
Oh yeah, I think so. I mean,
Have
if
you?
I can help, if I could help somebody else, that would be like life-giving.
I think it's great to want to help other people, but let me just ask you, because we are somewhat focused on business and entrepreneurship here, so we often channel things through that lens. And so my question is, would you be interested in doing that and being paid for it, or is it strictly a ministry thing for you?
No, I would love to get paid for it.
Okay. Okay. Now, have you spent any time with anybody and tried this?
No, I haven't.
Have you researched ways to plug into existing? Okay, see, now you're getting into it. I just felt that happen. Are you, and Beastmode, just jump in anytime you want here, but I do have one question to ask first, which is, have you thought about if you made a decision and said tomorrow is Wednesday, tomorrow my life coaching business is starting. What that means is that I am going to make a business, right? And so, maybe one of those things on the list is find where I can tap into existing pipeline, right? So what a pipeline means in the sales world, what a pipeline means is deals or revenue or existing need, right? So where can I tap? So I think for me, a couple of things I'm going to write this down actually, because I have to think it afterwards. First of all, and by the way, is there another, like you mentioned radio, television, film,
Uh-huh.
is that at all of interest to you, or is life coaching kind of speaking to you a little bit more?
Well, it's kind of like 50-50 because I actually do have a freelance writing job with a online magazine. It was totally a random thing. I asked, I was like, hey, are y'all hiring? Because she's a managing editor for Movie Guide. I had never heard of it. It's kind of like focused on the family,
Okay.
but it's not. But it's kind of
Is
that same avenue.
If I want to go check them out.
Yes.
Okay, let me go. Keep talking.
But so I'm trying to figure out where I'm at.
So what are you doing for them specifically?
I've done a review. I've doing reviews, and I'm doing
Can I just say
news
something
articles
to you about this? Looking at this, I can tell it's faith oriented, and it's like you said, kind of like the focus on the family one. I just want to say thank you. I have such a struggle sometimes knowing what I'm dealing with media, and so having people who are willing to spend some time and reviewing things like this is really awesome. So for what it's worth, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's silly, but it's not silly to me. Like some people would see it as silly, but I actually wrote an article for them about Jen Lilly. She does a lot in the foster care adoption arena, and with everything going on in the world like today,
Yeah.
that is a huge, with Embrace Grace and all that too. It's kind of like such a time as this, we need those advocates. They're willing to step up and say, like, let me be the shelter you need. Let me, talk is cheap, and if you don't like I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. Being the light. I am the job I have. I just want to be the light. I just want to be the light in the darkness. That it like if I had to write a mission statement for my life, I just want to be the light in the darkness. because there's so much darkness in this world. I mean, yesterday with mass shootings and just everything, it's just, it can be a lot. It can be a lot to process with everything going on in the world, whether it's, no matter what side of the spectrum you're on, you need to be the light in the darkness. Because I work for a secular company. It's very large, but it's like, even if I'm getting paperwork for loads from Target or whatever, I'm still that light to that person that's on the other side of the phone, or that other side of the email. When I really don't want to be the light when they're being difficult, I'm still that light. And that's like the biggest thing for me. I don't really care I care. I just want to make sure that that's where I'm serving God, where I'm serving Jesus.
Great. That's good. Beastmode.
Yeah, Brian, I'm just taking it all in. You're asking
Yeah, that's
very
okay.
insightful questions.
Yeah,
And I don't want to jump. I don't want to
Yeah.
jump too early.
Yeah.
I do want to say there's a lot going in my mind. Christina, Brian, and I have just spent the last 10 weeks putting modules that he cultivated through a job search, basically life change event that happened for him. We basically just documented it. He had documented on PowerPoint, and then we put it together and put it to practice. It's on YouTube and it's on Spotify, everywhere else that it's out there. But so some of that is kind of running through my brain too, is kind of valid here. I think there's a lot of good things. There's a lot of plates that are being juggled, and I love that. But it's I think there's a little bit of a merger that's going to have to happen at some point. The learning aspect is wonderful, but the learning aspect, I think, has to kind of get a little bit more focused. So maybe that's CEUs in life coaching, or CEUs and whatever the career that we're looking for. So that way it's adding on to each other and it's not just sporadic.
Yeah.
But the learning aspect, I think, is tremendous. I would not want to, because that's one of my number one characteristics, is strengths finders learner. I love learning. But again, I have to be careful, because sometimes I'll just learn about random facts and it's like, I didn't need to do that. And especially now, whenever, because sometimes there's a joyful learning where I want to go joyfully learn, and I'm not really going to pertain to business or whatever I'm doing. I just want to joyfully learn. But I think right now we're in a moment where we can joyfully learn in a direction. It's kind of my first thought. The second thought is where we can kind of utilize some of that information, the storytelling, kind of the preemptive approach. I like life coaching. I like where you're going. I think you have a positive story that can entertain and really captivate a lot of individuals. Some of that just needs to be told, and you're not, most people don't tell it. This is an app I've overcome. This is something I want to do. This is a service that I will begin providing. Currently, though, I'm looking to just share the knowledge I have until you're able to put all the ducks in a row to where you can successfully offer a service. Make sense?
Yeah. Yes, that makes sense.
And again, I think a lot of it is you can use some of the skills as the freelance writer and some of that background, and Howie's, I'll allow him to share more about this. There's a great avenue on LinkedIn where you're able to post articles, and you're able to post different things to your, forgetting the terminology, your profile, that
Mhm.
it boosts your profile and it really bolsters it. And so, Howie, if you want to take some of those points and just really elaborate, that's kind of my 2 cents at the moment.
Awesome, thanks. Yeah, I think that for what you're, so I kind of see 3 or 4 avenues right now. I mean, obviously your full-time job should be helpful to, by the way, long-term question, since you are currently able to live at home, are you able to invest in your retirement account right now?
No.
Okay. Is that because you're just not doing it, or do you have a lot of bills?
That's the main thing is why I'm looking to expand my horizons is because the reason I'm living at home, my niece and nephew are here too. So that they're all in the other room, but I'm not getting paid enough at my current job. And that's the big reason I still live at home. So but I am not investing in my retirement at all.
Okay. Yeah, because time is the enemy of that. For sure. Time can be a friend or an enemy. One thing to not to get you to move around here, but one of the challenges of staying in a company a long time is that you don't necessarily get raises, as
Mhm.
much as if you move. So, after 4 or 5 years, if you were, I'm not sure I would be in a hurry to move right now with the economy possibly about to go south. But just keep it in mind overall. And also, by the way, asking for a raise if it's not happening, is your boss happy with you?
Yes.
Okay. So I would just say if your boss is pretty happy with you, then I would, just maybe in a direct but kind way,
Uh-huh.
maybe just schedule a couple, 15-minute little chat about it. But just say, I really need to improve financially, and I need you to work on that.
Well, and I have gotten, so I've been full time for 3 years. And I got a raise last July, and it was 4 or 5, I think it was 5%. And then I got another raise in March, and it was a 5% raise too. So I have gotten a raise, but it's just trying to get past. I've never asked for a raise, so it's kind of hard to approach it.
Okay, so you have had some raise, about 5%.
It's been about 9%, I think.
Okay.
9 to 10% over the last 4 years. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So with inflation, you've lost it already. Like that.
Yeah.
You literally lost it in 1 year.
Yeah.
So yeah, just be thinking about that overall as a strategy. It's not a terrible thought to be looking at other jobs. What exactly is your job called?
I do document procurement is what I do.
Document procurement.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Do other companies have a job like that? Like similar?
Yes.
Okay.
And the last time I looked, it was between 19 and 21 an hour. And I'm making a little over 860 prior to taxes an hour.
Oh, so you are quite a bit under that.
Yeah.
Okay, so bringing those facts, you can use Indeed.com or others, bring screenshots of 4 or 5 examples of those roles that are posted. Just say, listen, I would like to be here for a lot longer. I just need you guys to help, to please consider carefully helping me out and getting me closer to some of these numbers. You don't have to match them, but get me closer. But if you show them facts, printouts, and if you're kind about it, And I think instead of bringing an unknown meeting on your boss's calendar, it's like, hey, I really, I'm looking at, and you have to prepare your talk track, so I can't make it up very well in front of you
Yeah.
right now. But something like letting them know, hey, I want to talk to you about my compensation, and just work together with you on a plan, and just let you know what I'm thinking and what I'm seeing, and because I'm so happy here, and I just and just let them know I'm so happy here, and I really want to, and then that way they know, then you schedule the time with them, right? And then you bring in the evidence, and you're kind, and you explain it. But also, one of the things about certain personalities that I've heard about recently is that some of your nicer people, some of your more encouraging, nicer people, sometimes don't make as much because they don't ask. So I think one thing, yeah, they're just, they don't want to upset anybody, and that's great. Like for some parts of your life, that's great. But we're going to have to maybe think about being a little bit direct with this area of our life, at least for one meeting. Like one meeting could change your life. I mean, what if you got $3.50 an hour? And that would be amazing.
Yeah.
Because right now what you're making, you can make it Target right off the street. You can make $50 an hour at Target. Actually, I think at Walmart too. So I feel like they need to beat Target at Walmart. I got to be honest with you. I think that you ought to be at like 16 and a half, 17. But even if they match Target, that'd be a big, be a big improvement. So anyway, but be thinking about that. And I think if there's one thing that we could talk to you a lot about all the other ideas, and I think those are all great, and some of the resources and things that we've taught in other sessions could be really good for you. It's just that I think we've now discovered that you've got, like, the timber is rotting out. Like, this is like, like the foundation is not going to hold. I mean, inflation is chipping away. I mean, this is not good.
Yeah, like they recently did a survey. They did like a company-wide survey about 3 months ago, and like they say, oh, it's anonymous. Well, I'm in the don't rock the boat, the calm seas. I know that doesn't work very well for a boat. But and then a colleague of mine that we used to sit right next to each other when we were in the office, because I'm in the office every 2 weeks. So she was more direct, and they gave her more responsibilities. And I was just like, oh, it's fine. What I'm being paid is fine, but in reality, it's not fine. It's really not fine.
Yeah, for me,
We're going to talk about
just to kind of keep. Yeah, for me to be said is, I think there's a lot of things, like kind of my comments ago, we could talk about the life coaching and getting something prepared and all that. And that's well and good. We probably should talk about that. But, there's some kind of rules in business and in life that's kind of, we talk about on this podcast and just kind of in business in general. There's low hanging fruit that we want to be able to reach and grab. It's already there. It's already low hanging. Mm-hmm. But there's actually fruit that's actually easier to grab than low hanging fruit. And it's fruit that's already fallen. It's on the ground. And it's like Howie said, if you don't grab that fruit before it rots, because it will rot. So there's a window before that fruit is bad. Mm-hmm. And so the fruit's already fallen. It's already here. You don't have to reach up and do that. It's already here. Mm-hmm. So you just have to pick it up. And that's walking in and have a conversation and say, hey guys, I do a very good job for you, and I enjoy being here. And now this is where I'm currently at. This is where the market says that I should be. Now, I'm open to having a conversation of why you're saying I should be here. But if you're telling me, and again, there's a great way to say it. By telling me that I'm here, this is what you're saying that I'm worth, and I can go over here. I want to be here because I enjoy what I do. But I also have responsibilities and things like that. And so you just, and again, this is where you invite the Holy Spirit to come in. This is where you bring your faith in and just say, hey, God, this is an opportunity for you to be the provider, to work, to soften the heart, to give me boldness to step out and provide provision, So this career that I'm currently in can help fuel my calling, because right now it's not actually a struggle.
Yeah, that the struggle
So
is for a few weeks I felt extremely burnt out. And the thought of finding a new position where I have to learn a new skill, like it's exhausting to even think about, oh, I should just go to a different company, they'll pay me what I'm worth. But that just sounds exhausting. When I love the people I work with the majority of the time. And so, that's the biggest struggle for me is I'm not bold. I am the one that wants to please everybody, wants to make sure everyone's happy, even when I'm not happy.
yeah, and just assuming that somebody else is just going to blanket bless you just because is, I mean, it's great to think that way, but maybe this is a life lesson that God's asking you to learn, and He's giving you an avenue to learn it right here. If you would just ask, I mean, the Bible's very clear. You have not because you ask not. If you don't ask, you can't receive, and there's an opportunity to do both right here. Just say, God, I'm just trying to do what your word tells me to do. You say that you're the provider, that you're going to meet all my needs. And so I'm just trusting you here. There's a tremendous way to not only receive worldly, earthly blessings, but also connect deeper to the Father, to the Holy Spirit, to just deepen your faith and just allow Him to do something, So that's the way I see it.
Yeah, it is hard. I mean, when things are hard, there's some things, that will help you to do the hard thing, which is, first of all, make a commitment to do it. Maybe write a plan. Maybe it's a 4-step plan. You say, tomorrow, maybe it's not even tonight, maybe it is tonight. Like after I hang up, I'm going to go look at, Career Builder, Indeed.com, Monster.com, LinkedIn Jobs, maybe 3 or 4 sites. And I'm going to look for my type of role, and I'm going to take a screenshot. Do you have a printer?
Yes.
So take a screenshot and print those out, right? So that might be the first thing. You find 4 or 5 examples, more the merrier, right? Because you're not going to be unkind. You don't even have it in you to be unkind. So it's you're going to bring them in, but you're going to staple them together, copy for you, copy for them, put them in a folder, right? Make it professional. And then you're gonna give them a warning. You're not just gonna spring it on them. You tell them the topic, ask for 15 minutes, and let them choose the time, and then that's the time. Be on the calendar, and then that's the time. And that you'll, in person is better. You come in every 2 weeks, but you can come in special for this one. This is a big deal, And then they don't have to make a decision in the room, because they probably don't have the authority to make the decision right away. But hopefully they will, because you're thoughtful and you're kind, and you're letting them know, just like Beastmode said, okay, I want to be here. I like it here. I love everybody I work with. At a certain point, I do have to just make sure that I'm keeping things with the industry, particularly with what inflation has done. I would like to partner with you. So if you write down some talking points, kind of practice them a little bit, and just don't be nervous, but be prepared. Bring the printouts. I think that would be very helpful. And Beastmode gave you a great question in the chat. If you were life coaching someone on this topic, what would you have them do, right? And Jordan B. Peterson talks a lot about this. Take care of yourself like somebody who's worth taking care of, because you are. And so I think it's so funny you mentioned that, Beastmode, because I was thinking earlier, this will give her a victory. Even just doing it will give her a victory that will kind of give her that internal strength to say, maybe I could help somebody else get a raise or help somebody else in certain areas.
Yeah. You know, I think so. So I recently, the lady that hired me is now in between me and my direct supervisor. And I don't know how, because like I'm the like the lady that hired me, I'm her favorite. And I'm not trying to be boastful in my.
Now, one quick question. The lady that hired you, you're her favorite, right?
Yes.
Is she still there?
Yes.
Okay, this is great.
So I don't know how to approach it because me and my new supervisor don't connect on the same. She's very hard to read. And they brought in someone. So I have two supervisors. So I have three supervisors total. But the new lady, if I ask her for a raise tomorrow, because she's actually in the office this week, I think she would give it to me in a heartbeat. The new lady, because me and her connect. I think she's a believer.
So you have two supervisors right now. One of them is not as warm and friendly, and they're a little hard to read. And that's a lady as well?
Yes, they're all ladies.
They're all ladies. And then, but the other lady who you equally report to, you report equally to both?
Yes.
Okay. So the other lady, yeah, maybe go to her and say, what's the best way to navigate this? Do you want me to grab both of you for this? Here's the topic. I don't have to talk about it today. I want to give you guys some warning, but I want to be appropriate and make sure I should I talk to you? Should I talk to her? Should I talk to both of you together? What's the best process? Because I want to be very kind about this, about the compensation topic, but I do want to talk about it. I want to be able to have that conversation, and so just maybe ask her advice. Okay. and just ask her to say, hey, if you were me, what would be a good process? I don't want to wait. It can't be 6 months from now. I want to talk about this in the next week or two, but what would, here's what I was thinking. I was thinking about, I've been able to find a bunch of comparable roles on the internet that are hiring right now that I don't want because I want to work here. But I thought I could take screenshots of those and bring them in and show you guys some examples. I plan on doing that. But what's the best? Who should I talk to? And what's the best process to follow?
Yeah. When I got my first raise.
How long ago was that?
That was a year ago.
Okay, so it's fine. It's not too early.
And then I got another raise in the springtime. I think it was February or March.
So the raises that you've been getting up to this point in time, they have accumulated to the $8.60 an hour, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Okay, cool.
So when I first started the position I'm in now, I had I went back and forth to a different position, but that first segment of time, that first time period, I got, so the workflow was at like the percentage of like what was outstanding for what I do. It was like 14%. And I got it down to, I think I got it down to, got it down to 4%.
That's
And
good, right?
yes,
Okay.
that's very good. The senior vice president is very happy. And you
I
know,
now
I
know
see
why you're talking
myself.
to us.
I mean, I'm
I
sorry.
now know. It's so funny because each one of these that we do is so different. It's so crazy. You cannot imagine who we've talked to. And it's every one of these is like a unicorn, unique conversation. It's really, and it just shows the beauty of the Holy Spirit and that just the kingdom of God and how we all help each other because we're all just family members and one person's a hand, one person's a foot,
Yeah.
that wonderful analogy. It's so cool to talk to you because it's becoming so clear like what God is doing for you. And what we always tell everybody is listen, the first conversation you have to feel like you got to knock out all your stuff in one call because we can have other calls because I think both of us probably think your other stuff's pretty cool, right? But it's just like, but Beastmode's right. Like this one could be like pretty, even better than low hanging fruit. Like it's so low hanging, like you better get it off the ground.
You need to get it before the squirrel gets it.
I really do think though, at the same time, I'm in such agreement with Howie that I think there's a lesson here for you that before, I mean, it said that life coaching gives you life. I mean, if you just look at the verbiage of what you said, who's the only person that can give us life? So we have to understand where that comes from. But at the same time, if I'm asking you, Christina, to step out and to do something that gives you life, and to teach others, but you haven't done that yourself. And so I think it's a step. It's not even a permanent step in my mind. And what I think the Holy Spirit's channeling through Howie and myself is that this is just a step for you to walk out so that you can receive and trust God. So then you can go teach others how to do the exact same thing. But it's really difficult. I know for me, because I'm in a stage in my life and I'll never forget this moment. God, back in the end of April, I was just having a quiet time. It's like 4 a.m. I was having a walk with him. I just remember him telling me, he said, Jordan, you're in the valley. I'm walking you through so that you can get to the other side and go back and get everyone else. Are you willing to do it? And he left it open-ended. And that's how God talks to me. He's very challenging. He's very direct. But he said, this is where you're at. This is where you're going, but you're going to go back. But you can't go back and get anybody until you've gone through with me, because this is the way to go. And I just truly believe that's for you. You've learned. I need you to do it so that whenever other people get on the phone and they're coming to you and saying, I have this, I need you, you say, well, I was there too. And this is how I did it. And I trusted and I believed and I obeyed. And this is how I received it. I know you can do it. I'm here for you. And you're coaching, you're cultivating.
Yeah, I recently heard a guy say, when you're when you are on top of the valley, on top of the mountain, and you go back down to the valley, you have the opportunity to go back the same mountain you were on previously, or you go an opposite direction to the mountaintop. And it's like your analogy, like I was like, wait, it's like it coincides so perfectly because I need to walk out my faith more than I do. I need to trust God more than I do. And sometimes it's really hard. It's really hard.
Yes, we're in complete agreement with you. It's very difficult to walk out faith, but it is so fruitful. As you were talking, one more thought came up to me, and I think it pertains to right now. but I think it also pertained to many conversations that you're going to have with individuals in the future. And it's something that everyone, it's a misconception that a lot of people have. And I try to share it as much as I can with those who are in the moment, but people often want to climb from mountaintop to mountaintop, but the fruit, the blessings, the overwhelming just oasis, they're not on top of the mountains. The mountaintops are barren. The mountaintops are covered in just desolate, because it's not an environment to sit in. You're not meant to sit there. You're meant to go from there, and you do. The majority of the time is in the valley. The valley is where there's nice flush fruit. There's nice big trees. There's rivers. There's a lot of things down there, and a lot of people don't like to be there. But that's where lessons are learned. That's where strength is built up so that you can overcome the next obstacle. And so again, you're in that moment. There's a blessing to sitting here. You're in a valley. You're in a moment. There's fruit that's not low hanging. It's just sitting. There's a basket right next to the fruit, just waiting for you to put in the basket. I mean, it's that ready and right for you. And it's things that you're going to cultivate so that, again, you can rise up to the mountaintop. So
That's so good.
So let me ask you a really heart-searching question. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being not going to do it, 10 being for sure, no matter what. I don't want you to make a vow or anything. I don't love those, but short of a vow, like a 10, how likely is it that you're gonna through a certain process ask for a raise?
Right this second, a 7.5.
Okay. And what would be, I've never asked anyone that before in my entire life. So I was wondering if that maybe was not my question. How can we get you to a 10? Name a couple of things that are concerns that might hinder you from doing that.
The rocking of the boat, that scares me. That scares me a lot because I know I'm valued, but I would like that compensation to reflect that I'm valued.
I think it's more of a stabilization of the boat. Right now, your boat's rocking and nobody knows about it. And what you're saying is, can you please stabilize me? It's a human thing to ask for. You're asking from one human to another human. I'm not asking a business. I'm asking you as a person. My boat is sinking, but I want to be here. So will you be a human and help rescue and to stabilize my boat? Otherwise, I'm going to go down.
And by the way, I felt some emotion when he said that. I think bringing them in to your story like that is really wise. Because I felt that. I actually pictured it when he said that.
Yeah.
So
I do feel like I'm drowning.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm already
I understand you are. I mean, our gas, I filled up my wife's car a couple of days ago, and it's not even as bad as it was, but it was in the mid 80s. Like, I mean, I can't even imagine what a hit that would be at your income level. I mean, that's a big deal, right?
Yeah.
So I
And
think your boat is rocky. I mean, I get it.
Well, and I've literally said, the last time, because my previous supervisor is still my boss. She's actually on vacation. So would I wait until the other is back, or do I do it with my new supervisor? My new supervisor, she's always been a supervisor-esque role. But do I wait and bring all 3 of them in, or do I just do the new lady and the one that I've been there for 10 years?
What requires the most faith of you? That's what you need to do, in my opinion. Whatever
The-
makes you
that-
the most comfortable is saying, God, I don't need you. I can handle this. But whatever requires the most faith of you, saying, God, I need you the most. I'm leaning on you. It's only going to be successful. And for me, I want to be in situations like that. So that's my answer. How you can give yours.
Yeah, I mean, when one of you was talking, I saw all three of them in the room with you. But I think that's just using my imagination. But I think having all of them there is nice in terms of you have all the decision makers and all the influencers in place, so they can all be in agreement in terms of what your story was. But I feel like you do have to write your story down. Like, here is what, here's the impact that I've made. Here are some of the statistics that you probably know about, but I want to remind you about these. Inflation has been a big deal this year. So, the the pay situation has been, it was already a topic that I would have liked to have worked on, but now it's become a little bit more urgent. And I really would like to have you guys help stabilize my boat. However you want to say it, but I think you want to script it out, make a few points, because no one can argue with your story. That's why people say, like Robert talks about, you go to Gateway?
Yes.
Yeah. That's why sometimes Robert will talk about, no one can really argue with your testimony, right?
Mhm.
And so it's like bringing a little bit of your testimony, and you can even say, listen, one of my missions in life is to be a light and an influence everywhere I go. I want to be that here, and there's no place I'd rather be. And I hope everybody can sense, even in the way I'm asking for this, that I want to do it the right way, because I have a passion to do things the right way. I have a passion to blah, 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 blah. You can write down a few thoughts. You don't have to write a book, but a few bullet points. You're not going to be able to read a paragraph under fire. You can't, but you can glance down. You can glance down at 5 points on a piece of paper.
Yeah.
In a talk. But I feel like the difference between 7.5 here and the 10 of the likelihood of you doing this, I think that difference, God, that tripped me up. I'm sorry. I feel like the Lord is there in that 7.5 to 10. I think the 7.5 is what you could do.
Mhm.
Can I give you a biblical example? Since I may have been a little bit more of a my personality on that one, is, which I still think is valid, is Esther. So Queen Esther walked in to have a meeting with the king Ahasuerus and Haman, prepared and ready to deliver the message that God wanted her to deliver at the first meeting. Do you know the
Yes.
story of Esther? Yeah, so she prepared the banquet, and was ready to deliver the message that Haman was their enemy. Right?
Mhm.
But she got confirmation in her spirit that now wasn't the time, right?
Mhm.
It wasn't the moment. So she invited him back to a banquet the next day. Now, this is where Howie comes into play. There's 0% possibility that Queen Esther, having given a banquet, could have prepared and got everything ready for the banquet the next day. She would have already had to plan these banquets out in advance and say, God, I'm here. You tell me when to act. And so I think, again, you go in and you lay it down and say, hey, guys, here's some information I want to talk about. I'm ready to talk to you about it today. But if you need to have this third person be here, and allow God to come into that moment. He may say, we're going to talk about it right now. Or he may say, hey guys, and you may get an email back or whatever, say, hey, we're going to have a meeting next week at 3:00 and all three of us are going to be here. Well, there you go. I'm ready right now. God, if you'd rather have me do it at a later date, I'm ready then too. So that's
I
our
think that's
correlation.
so smart. Having your bullet points written down, your talking points written down, having kind of your personal life story, you know, as far as where things are at and why you need this and da da da. You know, bullet points, story, and then those printouts, having that ready to go for such a time as this, like he's saying, is really, really, really wise.
Mhm.
And then you can be Esther instead of being like somebody under fire, like the Israelites who just suddenly attacked. You know what I mean? It's like, this is really, that's a wise, it's a very wise.
Yeah. The the whole do it scared. I know Bane would just be the two ladies. It would be my new supervisor and then
Yeah.
the new lady that just started.
And that's okay.
recently.
You know, I think the Lord will lead the process as long as you kick it off. I think the preparation step, you know, maybe that's a couple of days. But I think if you do preparation stuff like Beastmode was saying, and then you go knock on the door, then you know if you knock, then the door will be opened. But I think do the prep. You know, he's saying
Yeah.
do the prep.
Yeah, because if you go read the story of Esther, if she would have waited to prepare the banquets, however many she had planned, if she would have waited until the king said yes, there would not have been time to plan it. Because he said, right now, go get him now. Go get Haman now. We're going to the banquet now. There's no time to plan it. Not to meet the requirements to have the king come in. And that's what you're doing. You're inviting the king to come into your situation, and you're preparing an opportunity. God, here's an opportunity for you to come in. You know my story better than anybody. And I'm asking you to do what you can do. But I'm going to do my natural part so that you can do the supernatural part. That's the only way that this is going to work. He'll never do the natural and you'll never do the super. You have your role, he has his, you know, and that's it, you know. And so,
Yeah.
but I know that Howie and I both want to pray for you.
Okay.
Howie, do you have a closing comment
Yeah.
before we do that?
Yeah, just the fact that I think this obedience, you know, I think you acting on this obedience puts you in a position that can spark the life coaching more, will give you more confidence, will give you a story, will teach you a lot. So I think it's really important, both from a personal development, a side business, you know, development, and from a career and a financial development standpoint. And I think, you know, stretching is uncomfortable, but just like my wife has had to tell me at least two times when I had in sort of like a fork in the road in my career, she's had to tell me you can do it, and you know, and trust God, and you know, but it's really both sides of it, right? It's you can do it and it's trust God. It's not just like Jordan was saying, like it's both sides. Like you have a role that he won't play, and then he has a role you can't play. So you want to have both. But I've had to have my wife tell me at least twice, and I can't think of a third. There might have been a third one, but at least twice when I would not. I'm telling you right now, I would not have taken the job. I would not have done it. And so we're going to face these intimidating times, and the Lord has brought us to you at this time, and I do feel this was the at least the first reason, the main reason, is to help you with this, because this will spark other things. But if you don't face this, then and you shrink back, then you won't have the chance to face it and become stronger and bigger and better through the pressure. It's like when you lift weights, there's that process of getting stronger and bigger. Versus if we just shrink back, then we won't get stronger and bigger. We might even get by having a challenge that in front of you and not facing it, it actually could be damaging on a personal confidence level. So you really want to take on the things that are in your path. And if you need to do that, then that's fine. but I think do the preparation stuff that he was talking about,
Okay.
so you can be ready, and then just ask maybe the nicer one, you know, what she would recommend as far as the process to have a discussion. So anyway, yeah, I think we can pray. Any other thoughts, Beast Mode, on anything?
Because probably you're going to be a hero, but there are some heroes who are making some very quick moves as well. So happy to start either way with heroes or zeros. Let's follow your lead.